Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be creating this SVG curve menu. You can see when we toggle our menu we get that nice SVG curve come in, so it's not like a straight line. Adds a bit of interest to the animation. Okay, so looks pretty good on mobile devices as well, for example. There you go. Yeah, it's nice and smooth. Obviously we just what we're doing here is just using JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, just to adjust the D attribute of our SVG path. So I think it's a nice effect. It's quite modern and trendy. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and let's get going. Thanks. Okay guys, so to get started with this tutorial, you can see I've just got the three usual files here, an index.html file, a style.css and an app.js. Let's go into our index.html file first, get the boilerplate code up and running. I've just emitted an exclamation mark there just to get this starter code up. And then in the title, I'm just going to say SVG tutorial. And then I'm going to come underneath here and just say link to our style.css file in the header. And then in the body, we'll just say script source. And then we want to say app.js, like so, to link to our JS file. Okay, and then come into the body, I'm just going to say, we'll start a div with a class of header, okay, like so. Then in here, we'll just have another div of a class of menu-toggle. We'll just say menu tog, and it's going to contain two span elements. Okay, so we'll just do first span, second span, like so. Underneath this, we're going to have a div of a class of wrapper next. This is going to contain our SVG curve, and then we'll just say SVG here, like so. And then we're going to give this a class of transition. Okay, and then we'll say view box attribute next, so view box like so, and this is just going to equal 0, 0, 100, 100. So if we just open this up in live server a second, so what this view box attribute is specifying is just the coordinates we're going to be using just to place our path within this, our SVG path within this wrapper container. So this view box is basically, we're starting, these are coordinates, okay, so 0, 0 is the top left, and 100, 100 is the bottom right. Okay, so for example, you know, the first item here is on the x-axis, the second's on the y-axis. So if we start at 50, 0, it would start halfway at the top of the page, okay? 50, 50 would be in the center. Okay, and then after this, we're just going to say another attribute, say preserve aspect ratio, like so, and we're going to set that to none. Okay, we just want to remove the default behavior for that attribute. Okay, and then that's it for our SVG. Okay, so we'll just close that off, and then in here we're going to just specify a path next. Okay, so we're going to give this a class of path as well, like so, and then we'll give it a stroke color, and we're going to set this to black. Okay, so let's just do hexadecimal 0000000, like so, for black. And then the fill color we want to apply to our path is a yellow color. The hexadecimal code for this is FCC42A, like so. And then we can specify a stroke width. I'm going to set this to 3 pixels. Okay, so quite a wide stroke. We can then set a let's just say a duration. Actually, we'll leave that for now. And then we'll just say the last attribute we want to apply here is a vector effect, and we're just going to set that to non-scaling stroke. Okay, and what this does is no matter how far the user scrolls in, for example, if they zoom in on their web browser, the stroke width will always remain at 3 pixels. Okay, so that just stops it scaling to the user's zoom settings on their browser. Okay, and then the final attribute here we want to apply is a D, and this is just basically the direction of our path. Okay, so this is basically, we're going to map out the actual coordinates of the path now. Okay, so for our initial starting position, we're just going to say M for move to. Okay, this is like this will move us to our starting position. So we're going to move to coordinates 0, 100. Okay, so 0 on the x-axis, 100 on the y-axis, which is the bottom left-hand side of the browser. Okay, and then after that we're going to do a line, so we state L here, and we're going to move to 0, 100. Okay, so what that will do, we'll just we'll move to we'll move to the same spot basically. Okay, so we're starting off at the bottom left and we're just drawing a line to the same position just because this needs to be a square. Okay, but we're keeping a line at the bottom of the browser for now. And then after that, we're just going to say we want to move to 100, and that will move us to the bottom right hand side. And then we're going to do, as we did with here, we're just going to move to the same position. So say 100, 100 again. And then once we've done that, we're just going to finish off with a curve. Okay, so say curve. And here we're just going to say 50, 100. This is where our curve is going to be, or this is the curve point we're going to apply. And then we'll do a similar curve point after, the same curve point. It takes in 2 curve points, this curve argument. And then the final part after this second comma is the ending of our curve. So we want to end at 0, 100, where we started. Okay. So just to show you, I don't know if this will actually work yet. If we just, we need to still specify our container settings. So I'll show you how this works properly soon. Let's just close that off actually. Probably should have done that first. Okay, so you can see, basically if we change that back. Okay, so just to show you for the coordinates for now. So for example, if we move to, 50, we change this to 50 here. You can see we move to 0, 100. We then do a line to the same position. And then we then do a line to 100 on the x-axis, so here, and then 50, which is halfway. Okay, so that's what these coordinates are doing. So now, what else we want to do? So we want to come out of our SVG next, and then we're just going to do a UL, and then we'll just list some. These could be like links or whatever you want really, but we'll just make this like a kind of a hamburger menu for this tutorial. About just generic links, projects, contact, like so. Okay, so there's our links. Okay, that's it for our HTML. So now let's come to our CSS. And the first thing we want to do in our CSS is just all the normal the default settings. So I'm just going to say here margin 0, padding 0, and box size in border box. And then I'm also just going to say, that removes all our margins you can see there. Just going to say list style of none as well, because I don't want them bullet points next to our list items. And then I'm going to set the color. Actually, we'll leave that for now. List style none. Okay, that's it. So in our HTML, I'm just going to set the background color we'll go for this grey color, 3A, 3A, 3A. Nice dark grey. And then I'm just going to set the height to 2000 pixels just so we can kind of scroll for the purpose of this tutorial only, okay? And then next thing we want to do here is I'm going to adjust the header. So this is just going to be the fixed element at the top of the screen where our menu toggle is going to be housed, okay? So we're just going to say here position fixed, and then we're going to say top 0, left 0. We'll say width 100% and a height of 50 pixels. So if we set our background color to red, okay, you can see there's our menu. You can see it's fixed to the top of the screen as well. Okay, and then we're going to set the Z index here of 10 just so it appears in front of everything. And then also we're going to say display flex. And then we're going to say here align items center. That will center all the child elements vertically so they appear nice. So there's nice white space at the top and bottom. And then I'm also just going to say here justify content flex end. Okay, and that will make our menu toggle go to the right hand side of our header. Okay, and then I'm just going to apply some padding as well, just slight padding, so 0 at the top and bottom, and then 2 viewport widths at the right and left. Okay, and then I'm going to set the mix blend mode to difference as well. Okay, and then, okay, that should do for now. Next thing I want to do is just adjust our menu tog. So we'll just say .menu tog, and then I'm just going to say here position relative, and then we'll just say display flex again. And then here we want to adjust the flex direction, which is going to be column, because we want our span elements to appear underneath or above and underneath each other in a column format. And then we're just going to say width of 30 pixels, a height of 10 pixels. And then I'm just going to set the back just so we can see what that is. I'll say background, what's an image? No, blue. Okay, and be center like so. Okay, so you can see that's nice and centered now. And then we're just going to say here as well, cursor pointer. Also just to say justify content here as well to be space around, and that will give us some space around our span elements on the outside and in between as well. Okay, so now let's get our span elements. We'll just say .menu tog span, and then here we're just going to say a height of just 2 pixels, a width. Actually, no, we won't. We'll just say background of white, like so. So you can see our span elements have appeared now. Let's just remove that blue background. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll just say, we also just want to apply a transition here. So 0.2 seconds. And I'm going to specify the transform origin as well, just to be the center as well, because we're going to apply a transformation when we make this active, when we click on it. Okay, so now underneath that, next I want to do here, I'm just going to say, we'll get our menu tog, and then I'm going to set the first span element. Okay, so to that we just say nth child 1, and I'm going to make that width 100%, and then let's copy that down. And for the second element, so with the second child or nth child, I want to make it just 80%, so that's a bit smaller. As you can see, we've got a slight size difference there. Okay, and then what I want to do now is when the menu tog's active, we'll say menu tog dot active span. We're just going to say position, and we want to change this to absolute, and then we're just going to say here left 0, and we want to give them both a width of 100%, because what we're going to do when our toggle is active, we're going to change this into a cross. Okay, so let's do that now. Let's just copy these down, and then we just want to add when they're both active, like so. And then for the first child, I'm going to say top 0, and then we just want to say transform, and then we're just going to say rotate 45 degrees, like so. And that top should be 40%. And then for the bottom, for the second one, sorry, we're just going to change that to bottom, not top. And then the transform will be negative 45 degrees. Okay, so just to show you that, if we come in here, we go to our console, let's just get this. Copy the JS path. This is just what happens if we had the active class. So say dot class list dot toggle. We'll toggle the active class. You can see we get that nice animation now. Okay, it morphs into like a cross. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now kind of underneath this, let's get our wrapper next. Okay, so kind of underneath here we'll say dot wrapper. Remember, this is the parent element of our SVG curve. Again, I'm going to say position fixed here. We want it to be fixed to the screen. We don't want to use about to scroll past this. Again, a width of 100%. We'll say display flex, justify content, center, align items, center, like so. And then I'm going to specify just a height here of 100%. Okay, let's do a min height of 100% as well. Okay, let's just come out of this. Okay, display flex, yeah, that's my content center. Let's just change the background of this. Okay, so now underneath this, next one I want to do is I'm going to get I'm just thinking we should be centered now. Why is this not centered? Look at our wrapper here. Let's just do it at top 0, left 0. Okay, we'll come back to that. We'll see what's going on shortly. I'll just come underneath this. Let's just do our dot wrapper, and then transition. Actually, we don't need to have that wrapper there. Let's just delete that. So transition. Here, I'm just going to say position. Absolute, and again we'll just say left 0, top 0, width 100%, and a height of 100%. Okay, that's why. Now we're all centered. That's working good now. Okay, cool. So now come underneath this. Let's get our UL and go position this relative, and then we're just going to say here top. I want to go just slightly higher, so we'll say -5 viewport heights, and then we'll say a z-index of 2 here, and then I'm going to set the opacity at 0 because I don't want to see these links when we first open the screen. We'll say transition of 0.5 seconds, and then I'll say a height of 300 pixels, and then we'll just say again display flex. And also, let's just so we can see what we're working with here. Again, we'll say flex direction column, like so, and then we'll say justify content space between, just get a nice even spacing, and then I also just want to say text align here to center, nice and centered now, and we'll set the pointer events to none as well. Because I don't want the user to be able to interact with these on page load. We want to be able to interact with them when the menu is active. I'm just going to use this into font as well from Google Fonts. So if we just copy that selector, we'll put that in the header section here. And then we can also just put this here like so. In our style.css, I'll just come up to all of our main settings and we'll just apply that across the board. So we have that into font applied now. And I'm also just going to take that red background off. Okay, so now we haven't got too much long left on the CSS, guys. So yeah, point events none, and then we can say ul.active. I'm going to set the opacity to 1, and then we'll say pointer events all. Okay, and then li hover, we'll just say a cursor pointer and opacity 0.5. So let's just change that off for a second, so you can see now when we hover we get that hover effect. Cool. So let's put the pointer events to none, we'll set the opacity to 0, and that's it now for our CSS. Now let's go to the JavaScript. Okay, so the first thing we want to do in our JavaScript is we just want to get that path attribute. Okay, so or the path. Remember in our HTML we want to get this path set in here because we're going to be adjusting this D attribute with JavaScript. Okay, so we'll just say const path equals document dot query selector, and we'll just say dot path like so. To give a path, right? Yeah, this path here. Okay, so now if I console dot log path dot get attribute, and we want to get that D attribute. Okay, so we get our console here, and there's our path. Okay, so this is what we're going to be adjusting. Underneath this, we're just going to add our a function called Lerp. This is for linear interpolation. It takes in a start, an end, and a time variable here, and the equation to return is start times 1 minus t plus end times t. What this does, I've explained this in previous videos, it takes in a starting number, an end number, and the t works out the percentage between those two numbers. Okay, so for example, if we wanted to say, you know, console log, use that Lerp function, we start at 20 and the end is 60, and then we want to know halfway between those two numbers. Okay, so that would be 40 here. Okay, so halfway between 20 and 60 is 40. 20%, that will be 28. Okay, so that's just what this linear interpolation does. And what happens is when we use this in like a request animation frame, it will just we can use it to make, you know, a gradual smooth animation. That's what that function is used for. Okay, so underneath this, I'm going to set a toggle variable. That's going to equal false. And then, so that when we start our page, obviously we don't want the menu to be toggled, so that's why we're setting that to false. And then we're going to start SVG at bottom of screen as menu is not active. Okay, so to do that, we're just going to set a Y. So this is the variable for the Y-axis where we want our menu to be on the Y. So we're going to set that initially at 100. Remember, 100 is at the bottom of the screen. And we're going to be doing the same thing for our curve. So let's see, equal 100 as well. Okay, and then we're going to come and do a function called animate after that. And we're going to say in here, if toggle, so that means if toggle is true, which when we load the page, it's not true. But we're going to say here, y equals lerp. Okay, and then we're just going to say, we're taking the actual y variable, and then we want to interpolate to 0. Okay, so remember 0 is at the top of the page. So if the menu is active, then we want this to move to the 0 position so we can see the menu. So we put 0 in here. The animation time, I'll put 0.065, and then we're just going to add a toFixed function after that. Then we'll put 2 in here. Okay, and this will just basically return this number, and it'll only apply the first 2 decimal places. Sometimes this can churn out a large number of decimal places, and this just makes it a bit more optimized. It doesn't have to do as much calculation if it's a smaller decimal or a smaller float, basically. We'll do the same thing for the C function, the C variable, sorry. So again, just change that to C, change this to C as well. And here we'll make it a bit quicker, so I'll just change that to 8.5. Okay, and then what we want to do here is we want to grab our path, and we're just going to say .set attribute. We're going to set the D attribute here, and we're just going to use the same kind of path we used before in our HTML. So we're just going to move. We're going to move to, and we want to say here 0, and then we do a template list rule here. So these have to be backticks, and when they want to move to that Y variable, okay, then we're going to come out of here and do a line to 0, 100, 100, 100, 100. Do another template literal. Put the Y variable in. Then we're going to do a curve to 50, and then a template literal again, and we'll just chuck the C variable in there, like so. And then again, we'll come out of here. We'll do another 50, and then we'll say C, like so. And then finally, we just do want to end at 0, and then we want to just make the end position that Y variable as well. Okay, so that's it. Next one I do is if our menu is not toggled. Okay, so what we can do here is I'm just going to copy this actually, so we can say else. Why are we getting that? That should be closed off, like so. Okay, and then else, obviously, if our menu is not toggled, then we want to move it to the bottom of the screen. So we just change this 0 to 100. Okay, and everything else stays the same. Okay, so now just close that off again. Now what we need to do here is just do a request animation frame. And we're just going to repeatedly call this animate function. Okay, so if we come out here, press animate, we type in animate, and if we just, for example, console.log hi, then if we come to our console, you can see this request animation frame is just repeatedly calling that function. So you can see hi is being logged to the terminal over and over again. Okay, so let's just stop that happening. Okay, so now we're nearly there. We just need to select two more things. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to say const menu toggle equals document dot query selector, and we're just going to say menu hyphen togg like so. And then we're also going to say here const ul equals document dot query selector again. And then here we're just going to just say, we'll just do a ul main selector for now. Okay, now what we want to do, we'll come underneath our animate function. We're just going to select our menu toggle. We're going to add an event listener here. We're going to listen out for a click. Okay, and then we'll do a callback or an arrow function here after. And then I'm just going to say set timeout. And then this takes in a callback. And here we're just going to set the toggle to equal the opposite of what it's currently set to. Okay, so if this is true, it will set it to false. If it's false, it will set it to true. Okay, we're just going to add a 300 millisecond delay on that, and you'll see why we're doing this shortly. Come underneath this timeout, I'm next going to say if toggle is active or true, then we're going to say ul.classList.remove that active class, okay, straight away. Else, we're just going to do a set timeout. And we'll just we'll copy this down again. We'll just change this to add active actually. So change that remove to add, like so. And we're just going to give this a 1000 or a 1 second delay. Okay. And then here we're just going to say menu toggle.classList .toggle. We just want to toggle that active class. Okay, so now it should work. Oh, we've got an error. What's that? Properties of null. Cannot read properties of null. Read an event listener. So that's at 32. Menu toggle click. Okay, so menu toggle, that should have a dot in it. Okay, so now you can see we get that nice SVG curve effect. Okay, and the reason we've kind of applied this animation, you can see we get that slight 300 millisecond delay, okay, when we click this. So it's not long, but you just get, it's a slight delay. And what happens is, when our toggle's active, so you can see here, basically, when we click, it will enter this if statement. So the toggle's active, and it will remove the active class from our UL straight away. So that means it will disappear straight away. You can see, disappear straight away. But when it's not active, we set the timeout to add the active class to 1 second. And this just gives our SVG curve a chance to animate in before we apply that active class, okay? So you'll see now there's a 1 second delay before it's applied. And that's why we've set it up like this, okay? So this works on, all screen sizes. You can see here we get this nice curved effect. I've seen this on quite a fair amount of websites now. I think it looks pretty cool. Also looks pretty good on mobile devices as well, just to show you. And there you go. So yeah, you can see all the different parts of that path being animated with our Lerp function in JavaScript there. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year to you all, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Thanks again. Cheers.